Welcome to the Sports Sesh podcast. I'm your host, Mason Shatwell, and my co-host is James Evans. And today we've got quite an interesting guest, BT Sports' very own, Mr. Adam Catterall. How you doing, mate?
Sound, I like that. Interesting guest. There you go. You bigged it. You bigged it right up.
I'll just start with, obviously, we're in UFC 251 fight week. I know some of the interviews you've been doing, most fight weeks you're there with the fighters. How's it been doing the interviews over a screen and not in person?
Horrific, mate. I much prefer to be in the presence of other human beings. You can feed off their energy. I don't know what you guys are like when you're speaking to other people, but energy is a big important factor in part of that conversation. You know what I mean? You can read people, you can understand them a little bit more with what they're saying. When you're talking to a screen, you kind of become a little bit robotic. There's no real, even though there's probably chemistry that you've built up on previous conversations that you've had with this particular human being. When you're doing it over a screen, it isn't the same. I don't care what anybody says. You know, I mean, just before speaking to you, I don't want to name drop, but just before speaking to you, I've just spoken to Alex Volkanovski. He's obviously out in Abu Dhabi at the moment, fighting Max Holloway this weekend. And I'm lucky that I've had previous conversations with him, because if that would have been the first time that me and him have ever had a conversation, it's very easy for that fighter then to kind of just give you one-word answers, not be as open as they would normally, and you kind of have just a run-of-the-mill interview. Whereas, luckily, I was there when he became champion against Max. We had a wonderful conversation out there face-to-face, so therefore, because he recognises the face, he goes, all right, okay, cool, and then away you go. I mean, he's an open dude anyway, but yeah, going back to what you asked, mate, I much prefer to be in the presence of other human beings doing this job rather than doing it over screens.
Well, while you're out there doing interviews, when you're over in Vegas or wherever the events are, what's your favourite part about Fight Week when you're over there?
My Fight Week is split up really into individual bits and then team bits. So when I land, I normally fly on either the Sunday night or the Monday morning, and I'll land late Monday or whatever, right? So Monday I normally have that day just to get my head around the time difference and what have you. I'm a nightmare with jet lag when I'm out there, mate. I just can't sleep. I don't know what it is. When I come home, I'm sound, but going out there, it's an absolute nightmare. So then Tuesday is always set up for individual fighter interviews. So all the stuff that you see when, for example, if I'm sat down with Alex Volkanovski or Connor or whoever, he's always done on that Tuesday. It's always catered for us at BT Sport, ESPN as the major broadcaster over in the States, and I think TSN as well, the Canadian broadcaster, are always in there as well. And that's when we get the one-on-one. And that, for me, is when you get the best out of individuals, when you're lucky enough to have those one-on-one conversations rather than in a media scrum, which is normally later on in the week for everybody. They can all go in there and have their 5-10 minutes with whoever it may be. But once you get an opportunity to sit down for a good 15 to 20 minutes, and you can, as I've just said, read body language, build some chemistry, build a bit of a rapport pre and post interview, and then create something that people actually want to watch and get some value out of, is probably the individual highlight of my week. And then from a team point of view, I mean, I'm lucky enough to get to work with my best mate and one of the best fighter analysts in the world, in Dan Hardy, you know, and they're all as mad as a fucking box of frogs when they're out there. So to sit there and make a show every single day. So from Wednesday then, so we'll make one Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for weigh-ins, and then obviously we'll have a big post fight now, and we're now starting to do live event ones as well. So yeah, man, it's just fun. I mean, those gigs for me when we're doing the open match shows, my job's very, very easy. It's a case of, right, here are the talking points, point the conversation in the right direction. Dan's the best analyst in the game, so if you talk about anything technical, chuck it at Dan, and Dan will wax lyrical about the nuances of all sorts of stuff. Every day's a school day when you're in his presence. You'll learn something all the time. And Nick will just give me what I need. He'll just give me the energy, man. He'll give me the energy for that program. So yeah, so it's split in two ways. From an individual point of view, Tuesday's probably my highlight, when I get to sit down with the superstars of this sport one-on-one. But then the rest of the week's just a laugh. You know what I mean? It's literally, you're getting paid to be on a stag do and talk to fighters. It's mad.
When it comes to sitting down with fighters one-to-one, usually as a journalist, you could sort of analyse, like you said, with their body and sort of get to grips of where they're at in fight week. Do you ever sort of in your opinion, what am I trying to say? Ever get that opinion where you know how prepared the fighters are, you know what they're going to be like on Saturday night? Because usually, like I said, as a journalist, you can tell whether or not they're truly ready for fight week. Do you ever get that when you're interviewing fighters one-on-one?
100%. The again, it's weird that I'm bringing his name up a lot because I know he's fighting this weekend. Alex Volkanovski is probably the last time that this sprung to mind. If you remember the first fight with Max Holloway in Vegas, going into that fight, Max Holloway, even though he was coming off, I think the defeat to Dustin Poirier because he'd stepped up in weight, but he come down, he fought Frankie Edgar, beat Frankie Edgar, and then he was coming into this fight to defend his title against Volkanovski, right? And a lot of people going into that would have classed Max Holloway as one of the best, pound for pound. He's on your list. Where he is on your list, I don't know. It's down to you as an individual, but he's there. He's the guy, right? And Alex Volkanovski hadn't really, bar Jose Aldo, don't get me wrong, he'd beaten Jose Aldo, but he hadn't really had that moment where everybody had gone, wow. You know what I mean? This is the guy. So I kind of anticipated, when he came to sit down, maybe a guy that would be short on answers, you know what I mean? Very short, because he's concentrating on the biggest moment of his life. That's what this is at the weekend. I'm fighting Max Holloway. And I anticipated speaking to a dude that would be in that mindset. And that's cool. There's loads of guys like that. I'm sweet with that. He bounced into the room, mate, like he was nipping down to Tesco, right? I was like, who's this guy? Just bags of confidence, tons of it, loads of energy. He gave me the feeling that he wasn't fighting at the weekend. And that's when you know someone's in a wonderful, wonderful place. Like it's just part of his routine. When people are uptight, when people are edgy, when people are giving you those one-word answers, you can see this might be getting a little bit too big for you. You see it a lot in Conor week. So when you're around the fighter that is fighting Conor McGregor, by the back end of the week, that week's got to a lot of people. You can see it, the tight, the tense. They're like going, I want to take this dude's head off. I want to show all these people. It's gone. You've lost already because Conor McGregor fight week's got to you. Whereas with Alex, all that week, from the Tuesday sits down, cool as, I'm thinking, all right, maybe my mind's changing about how this fight's going to go at the weekend. You then start to see the progress building up towards weigh-in, because obviously anybody that's not eating and cutting that amount of weight, the tetchy. He wasn't, man. He was just so cool and calm and relaxed. And I'm thinking, so yeah, he's probably the last guy that I've been around that has really changed my mind of how a fight is going to progress just in a 3-4 day period of being around him, thinking he's built for it. He's built for this particular moment. He's ready.
Well, with you talking about Alex, have you got a prediction for this weekend for his fight?
Yeah, he keeps it, man. I mean, Nick's just been shouting at me because we've just recorded our podcast, Fight Disciples, this morning, and he's a massive Max Holloway fan. He believes Max will get the job done this weekend out in Abu Dhabi. And to be fair, there's a lot of people that I've spoken to that believe that Max Holloway will get the job done. But Alex, I think a lot of people, even now that he's champ, are still sleeping on the kid. You know what I mean? I mean, he proved in that first fight he can fight at range. His leg kicks were outstanding in that fight. Don't get me wrong, Max has now downloaded the data. He kind of knows that version of Alex Volkanovski. But look at the gym he's coming out of, mate. He trains with Israel Adesanya and Dan Hooker, who's just been in an absolute barnstormer with Dustin Poirier, hasn't he? You know, that gym is on fire at the moment. And I've just got a feeling this weekend, I think we'll see something very special from Alex Volkanovski.
Yeah,
you've got that on tape now, you buggers, right? So you can send that wherever.
That's our title for the podcast.
Yeah, that's it, man. Now Max Holloway will refuse to be interviewed by me later on.
That's the one thing that struck me with Alexander Volkanovski, like you said, because I was watching the previews before the fight with Holloway, and he was like, all the fighters that have fought Holloway before, they've just approached it wrong, and I'm going to be the man to stop him. I'm going to be the man to do this. And I truly respect that with Max. And I think what with Holloway said recently, I can't remember if I'm getting it word for word. He just said, in terms of his training, I don't know if it was about his sparring, whether he's done a lack of that, and there's sort of aspects in his training coming into this weekend that he hasn't done compared to before. So I totally agree. I'm one of those where I'm a huge Max Holloway fan, but after watching that clip last weekend, I'm just there thinking, you know what, with Volkanovski's mindset, I really think he could take this one. I think I'm in agreement with you. I'm going for a decision with Volkanovski, because I just don't know if Holloway's got that mindset and the determination to win that belt back. You never know. He could turn it up.
Mate, I think he does. I don't think anybody can doubt Max Holloway as a martial artist and as a warrior and all those types of things. And I think we're going to get an elite fight again. We're still going to get an elite fight. I think both men are going to bring it. Sometimes certain fighters have got somebody's number. You know what I mean? It's like Chris Weidman with the Anderson Silva thing years ago. I mean, Chris Weidman didn't go on to fulfill the potential that I thought he could go on to go and fulfill, but he just had Anderson Silva's number. And I think Alex Volkanovski has just got Max Holloway's number, and I think we'll see it again this weekend. It'll be close. I don't think it'll be like, whoa. I mean, the first fight, I scored it 4-1 to Alex. I thought he was that good. I thought he was that far ahead. But I think it'll be a bit closer, but I still think he'll get the job done.
Well, one thing we have got to respect about Alex is when he won the title, he couldn't have been any more humble towards Max. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people were expecting that from Alex. But as we say, not a lot of people were expecting Alex to win. So seeing him win, it was a bit of a shock, but from the performance, some people could have scored that 5-0 to Alex.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. I gave Max the last round, but up until that point, he was well ahead. I think he broke his hand as well in the fourth round, and so maybe that's why he took his foot off the gas. I think we'll get a slightly different fight because Max is a clever dude. You know what I mean? He's seen that. He knows he's got to start a bit quicker. He has to start quicker in this fight. And put the pressure on Alex Volkanovski. If he doesn't, it'll get away from him again. But I think whatever happens, lads, we're going to get a cracker, aren't we? Come on, man. They're fighting on a bloody island. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be amazing.
With regards to UFC 251, I mean, obviously the standout, the breaking news was sort of drama that happened sort of over the weekend with Gilbert Burns testing positive for COVID-19 and him pulling out, and there's also Covington and Masvidal in with a shout, and obviously Masvidal's got the shot. And on taking a fight like this on 6 days' notice, you've got to respect them. And with that sort of aspect, you've seen over the years the likes of Nate Diaz, Michael Bisping, all taking fights on short notice. But if Masvidal wins that belt on Saturday, would that sort of top the lot in terms of taking the fight on short notice, or is Bisping the still winner in that one?
Bisping's my boy, man. I can't do this to him, can I? Do you know something? Just because of what Kamaru Usman has achieved as a welterweight, I think if he wins at the weekend, he equals George St. Pierre's run in the welterweight division for the most amount of victories, not title defences, but victories in the division. He's a dominant athlete. Is Kamaru, a sensational athlete. He's brilliant at what he does. But the rise of Jorge Masvidal has just been ridiculous, man. From UFC London, where he beat and knocked out Darren Till, to Askren, which is exactly a year ago, to then the BMF title against Nate Diaz, to where we're at right now. It does remind me a lot. You just brought up Nate's name there. It reminds me a lot of UFC 196 when Conor was obviously supposed to be fighting Rafael dos Anjos. And we were all hyped about that because it was going to be the moment where Conor could become a two-weight world champion at that particular point. That falls off because of injury. And then we get more excited about the new main event, which was mad. There was no title on it. We got more excited about the new main event, which was obviously Nate Diaz and Conor. And we all know how that went after taking it on last minute notice. I think if Jorge pulls this off, and don't get me wrong, this ain't easy, man. This is as hard as it's probably going to get in the welterweight division. But if he pulls this off, given all the narrative of not just this week, but the last 18 months, this is like, you should have your own little division in the Hall of Fame. You should have your own little box there. So you're going the Jorge Masvidal box, because it's just like, it's Hollywood. It's movie shit. It's proper movie. It's a movie moment if he can pull this off.
Well, when the news broke out over the weekend that Gilbert Burns was out, who did you think was going to get the title shot? Did you believe Covington had a chance of getting it before Masvidal?
Nah, man. You send up the bat signal, don't you? You send up the BMF signal, and the main man responds. There was no need to make the fight. If we're really honest, you look at the card. You've got two world title fights on there. You've got a cracker in what we've just been speaking about between Holloway and Volkanovski, and you've got the vacant title for Petr Yan and Jose Aldo, right? And you look at that and you think that's solid enough. And you look down the card, okay, you've got the Andrade and Namajunas rematch. And you've got Paige Van Zandt in her last fight, let's be honest, for the UFC against Amanda Ribas. Good fights. Volkanovski Volkanovski is on there. Some good fights, some great. So you don't necessarily need to stick another title fight on there. And I'm led to believe that it was Masvidal that actually went, come on then, if you offer me the dough, man, I'll get on the plane and we'll go and do the thing. Of course, it's easy in a moment like that for a lot of fighters to make noise. When the odds are actually stacked against making the fight, it's easy to then go, all right, yeah, if you need me, give me a call. I'm ready to rock and roll. Knowing full well, you've got to go through a COVID test. You've got to go through the rigmarole of getting your ass out to Abu Dhabi. You've got to go through all these different protocols in such a short period of time to get yourself into that situation. So the moment it fell off, I didn't anticipate anything to happen. I thought, well, that's it. That's not going to happen. The Gilbert Burns fight will probably just get rearranged for maybe the next card, where we've got Stipe and DC going at it. It's a wonderful accompaniment to that, isn't it? So maybe that. But then when momentum starts moving and you start to see Masvidal having his COVID tests and you go, this badass, look at this badass. He don't care, man. He's having it. That is narratives like no other sports franchise. And I'm using that term loosely because you could probably make an argument for the WWE, right? Which is sports entertainment, of course. But there's nothing else that can provide this narrative for you. Nothing else can do what the UFC are doing this week. Boxing doesn't do this. And if anything, Masvidal's kind of shone a light on boxers this week who were making those complaints about, I can't get ready in 6 weeks for this world title fight against X, Y, and Z. What are you talking about, man? We're living in a weird time. Opportunity's only going to knock once. If you want to be the guy right now that steals all the headlines, this is the type of thing that you've got to be doing. And Masvidal now has put himself in that window where in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years time, people are going to go, do you remember when Jorge Masvidal did this? Boom. It's a piece of history that could just go down in the annals of time forever, man.
With regards to the third title fight, which you were talking about earlier, Petr Yan versus Jose Aldo, there's been so many mixed opinions on this across social media. What's your prediction for this fight?
At the start of the year, I always make predictions for what I think will happen in the UFC. Didn't predict COVID, so that's kind of thrown a lot of things out the window. But I did say on that list that Petr Yan would be the new bantamweight champion at some point, thinking in my mind that he would fight Henry Cejudo. I just thought he had the tools to negate what Cejudo would offer, even though I think Cejudo's brilliant, and he's proven he's brilliant. Cejudo hangs, his gloves up, title goes vacant. So I'm thinking, right, okay then, Yan Moraes maybe? I think Yan wins that fight. You look at some other contenders in there, and don't get me wrong, Aljamain Sterling's been amazing recently. The way that he is shot up, that's a different type of fight. I think Aljamain Sterling might actually be the favourite going into a fight with Petr Yan. But then off the back of a loss for Jose Aldo to get the shot, yeah, it was surprising. But the shame for Jose Aldo with a lot of fans is that he seems to have been defined by what Conor McGregor did to him, which is stupid because he is the best featherweight. He is the best featherweight. I mean, people
10 years unbeaten.
Of course, man. People can make arguments for Conor. They can make arguments for Max Holloway. And what we're living through right now, who knows? Alex Volkanovski might go on to be that. But right now, as we sit here and chat, Jose Aldo's the best featherweight that there has been. So for him to come down in weight, to get a shot at another world title at a weight category below, where he became legendary, I'm all right with it. And do you know something? The more I think about it, the more I actually think about the technicalities of the fight, even though I predicted that Yan would become bantamweight champion this year, I think this fight's all wrong for him, man. I look at it and I go, Aldo's good. If Aldo can get his legs going early and start digging in like he did when he dominated at featherweight, and then he can negate the pressure that Yan's obviously going to bring him because he's brilliant on the back foot, I think he could take this on points, man. I think he becomes the new bantamweight champion at the weekend.
There we go, bold prediction from you.
There you go. So what we got so far? I've got Volkanovski to keep his belt.
Yeah.
I've got Aldo to become a bantamweight champion. And then we're going, yours, Masvidal! Come on! That's a tough fight. That's a tough fight for Masvidal to win. It'll be. I think if Masvidal's still there after 15 minutes, which I think he will be,
we've
then got a fight on our hands.
Do you think he's going to be able to produce one of them highlight reel knockouts that we've seen last year from him?
Jeez, man. Well, he's proven he's got the power, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He knocked out Darren Till. Darren Till doesn't get knocked out. Now, okay.
And he's a middleweight.
Exactly. But maybe Till was struggling at welterweight with the weight, right? So maybe that's had an effect on that knockout. I'll give you that. He lit up Nate Diaz. I don't care what anybody says. He lit him up.
No, 100%.
And, of course, within 5 seconds, he's landed what he's landed on Ben Askren. You can't really look too much into that from a power point of view. But you don't know, mate. I don't know. We've never seen... I mean, does Colby Covington hit hard enough? Because that's the last fight that Usman was in, right? Does he hit hard enough? And he caught Usman a couple of times, listen, it was a great fight. Does he hit hard enough for us to sit here now and go, oh, Kamaru Usman's chin's amazing? I don't know. We know that Masvidal whacks, right? And he believes in his power now. He's starting to believe in what he's doing. We'll find out in 5 minutes, mate. We'll find out, won't we? As soon as that door shuts, we're going to find out. Imagine if he did it, though. Imagine if he did it.
Imagine. I know there's so many true Masvidal fans out there. It's just starting to come out of their shell and give it large to all the Usman fans going, you know what? Our boy's going to take it this weekend for our first round knockout. I don't know. I'm up in the air because, some people are going to say Usman's just going to take it down for 25 minutes, just frustrate him on the mat. Then others are saying, look, standing up, Masvidal's got the edge on that one. I truly believe he does.
But if you're Usman, why do you want to stand up with him? Why do you want to stand with him? When you know you're the superior wrestler, when you know you could do your thing. And don't get me wrong, Jorge's not crap at wrestling. He's good.
No.
Yeah, he's very good. And he can take down defenses. He's proven on many, many occasions in the past. But that's where Usman's game is, We saw what he did to Woodley. He ragdolled him around, didn't he? You know what I mean? And there is a danger of this fight going that way. So logic, you are right. Logic, you sit here logically and say, right, who wins the fight? Kamaru Usman wins the fight. That's what you say logically. But you're basing that on maybe the whole career knowledge that you've got. Let's have a look at the last 18 months of Jorge Masvidal. He's a different dude now. He's a 100%. Different dude. He's thinking differently. He's far more confident. The way he's carrying himself is far different to what you can judge previously with a guy that's lost 13 times, I think, in the UFC. Forget all that. Just judge on the last 18 months. This is the moment right now. And if he walks to that octagon, the only thing I'm worried about is that he does buzz off a crowd.
Yeah.
Having the adrenaline there gets him fighting me. He buzzes off it. I know that he's experienced in fighting in backyards where there's no crowd or anything like that, so he won't care. But the adrenaline of a crowd most certainly sends him to outer space with the way that he's been performing recently, So I hope it doesn't have too much of an effect on the way that he approaches the fight.
Well, I think I've seen something online before that this will be Jorge's 49th professional MMA fight, and this is the first time he's fighting for a title. And I think the people he's joined in that category waiting that longer, the likes of Michael Bisping. So if he does win, there's no one that can't say that he doesn't deserve it, because he's a true veteran of the sport.
He's paid his dues. Yeah, I think there's only Alistair Overeem that waited longer. I think Overeem had something like 53, and this is what you said, 48, 49 fight for Masvidal. So yeah, he's paid his dues, man. He's waited. But that just goes to prove what came before this previous 18 months. There was a lot. He was the king of the split decisions, was Jorge, He was fighting guys and just going through the motions in fights. There was no real conviction to what he was doing, He's gone away on that reality TV show. He's had an epiphany moment. He's come back and he's gone, right, do you know something? I'm going to dig my toes in. I'm digging my toes into the canvas, and I'm going to throw properly, and I'm going to try and take people's head off, as he says himself. I'm going to baptize dudes, And he's baptized 2 guys in the last 18 months, and he lit another one up who's very hard to get out of there in Nate Diaz, Nate, listen, Nate's, how tough Nate is, and he absolutely lit him up for the period of time that fight lasted. Let's see if he can do it this weekend, man. You've got me jacked. Listen, it's only bloody Monday, and I'm absolutely pumped up.
It's fight week. That's what fight week does to you.
Yeah.
I've seen rumours of, this is a bit crazy, but I'm not against it. If Jorge Masvidal wins on Saturday night, Conor McGregor, does he get the next shot? Have I gassed you up even more now?
Mate, that's the one.
Yeah.
Kamaru Usman is all wrong for Conor. All wrong.
100%.
So for Conor to be doing what he's doing at welterweight and listen, tremendous, mate. I love Conor McGregor fight weeks. Love watching Conor fight. Love being in Conor's presence. He is, for me, amazing to be around. He's fantastic. And I want to see him in the very biggest and best fights because that brings out the fans and it brings out these sensational moments that we've all been used to over the past. But if you look in the welterweight division, Kamaru Usman's all wrong for him. And then you look at some of the other fighters that are there that would be challenging in and around the title, and you think too big. You know what I mean? It just doesn't sit right. Conor's a lightweight. Whether anybody likes that or not, he's a lightweight that's just not cutting weight. That's what he's doing, right? And his last fight against Cowboy, he's a lightweight that wasn't cutting weight, right? So it's very hard to judge where he's at as a welter, right? Masvidal's a lightweight that's just fighting at welterweight now. He's a career lightweight. He's Masvidal. Don't get me wrong, he's performing much better at welterweight now, but he could do 155 if he really wanted to. So, and you know Masvidal's mentality. He's not going to wrestle. He ain't going to take anything on the mat. We're going to stand up. You're going to hit me. I'm going to hit you. And it's the first one to go over. It is the perfect fight. I don't care what anybody says, whether he jumps the queue or whatever. Conor McGregor, if Masvidal wins at the weekend, imagine this at Christmas. Masvidal wins at the weekend. Welterweight title, BMF title, Conor McGregor. Let's go. That's it. That's the fight, man. Come on.
100%. Hopefully we'll have a crowd back by then. Las Vegas.
Fingers crossed.
It's the perfect fight. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Then.
What we was talking about before, when you can sense how a fighter's feeling on fight week. When you was over in New York for UFC 244, did you have a prediction that Masvidal was going to win that fight?
Good question. Just off. That was a hard fight to call, because I knew that he wouldn't get Nate out of there. You could throw the kitchen sink at Nate; he ain't going anywhere, So I knew that wouldn't happen. And with all due respect to Jorge, at welterweight, I didn't know what his cardio was going to be like, because he was only in the octagon for 5 seconds with Ben Askren, wasn't he? And then he got rid of Till, I think, in the second round. So I didn't know where he was like cardio-wise. I know that Nate can go forever, man. Look at the triathlons that he does and all that type of thing. So I always thought, I think going into that fight, I thought Jorge would win the majority of the early fights. And I think a lot of fans thought the same thing. The early rounds would be Jorge's rounds. But there's always a point, as we saw in the Conor fight with Nate. Conor was winning the fight. And then, hang on a minute. Now it's come down to a matter of cardio and who wants it and the will to win and dog in the fight. Listen, they're both very similar characters, Jorge and Nate. So I don't think the dog in the fight was ever going to come into question. It was just going to be whether they could physically carry it out. He proved that the fight ended up getting stopped, didn't it, on the cut. So he did enough damage. But I think going into that, I probably had a similar thought process with what I've got going into this Kamaru Usman fight. If we're still there after 15 minutes, we've got a hell of a bloody fight on our hands. You know what I mean? That was probably my attitude going into it. But what he proved in New York was unreal, man. I thought he won every minute of every round. I thought he was brilliant.
I'll go to the last card we've just had with the UFC, Poirier and Hooker. Before we go on to the main, Mike Perry with his girlfriend only in his corner. What was your thoughts on that?
Going into it, I thought he was a lunatic, and then coming out of it, I thought to myself, he knows more about MMA than any of us lot put together, because he's just he's a fighting guy. He's trained all his life. He knows what he's got to do. And from people that know him a lot better than I do, he studies a lot of his opponents. So he's got his own analytical brain. He knows how certain moments are going to happen within the fights. And with all due respect to Mickey Gall, he ain't fought anybody like Mike Perry before. He's been fighting dudes like CM Punk and whatever, you know what I mean? So I think if he steps up in class and he's fighting better guys, and he approaches it the same and he still has his girlfriend in the corner, I think I'll be a little bit more taken aback by it. And I don't think he will. I think he'll have some other people in that corner. But listen, you got to love him. Mike Perry's Mike Perry. This is the beauty of this sport. It brings out these characters that are just captivating, aren't they? They just do some mad shit that get us talking, get us chatting about it, and get us excited about the sport.
Well, on the same night, we had a fight of the year contender, Poirier. Do you think that fight beats Whaley and Joanna?
No.
Tough one.
The fight for 25 minutes, Wiley and Joanna is just high level. Just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It was brilliant. I think round 2 in Poirier Hooker is the round of the year. I think it's like, what the fuck is this, man? They're just beating the shit out of each other. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable the way it went back and forth. Then you had loads of different bits and transitions. They were on the deck, then they were on the feet, and then they were at it again. Round 2 is unbelievable. It's the round of the year for me so far. But as a fight for 25 minutes, Joanna and Wiley is still number 1 just.
What's next for Dustin Poirier? Do you think he fights Tony Ferguson, or do you reckon he needs that one more fight before fighting again for the belt?
Depends what happens now, obviously, with the lightweight situation, because as you boys will know, sadly, obviously Habib's father passed away last week. We don't know what's going to happen there. We wish him all the best and send him all our condolences. But going forward, I mean, would anybody really blame Habib for saying, that's it now, I'm done? I clocked the game. Me and my dad did what we did, and I don't want to fight no more. And if he said that, sweet, you know what I mean. I'd respect that and wish him all the best. If he wants to fight again, is he going to fight in September? Is that going to be too soon? Is that going to be too raw for him? I think it would be. I think it would be for most human beings, wouldn't it? And this isn't no disrespect to Habib, but the division does have to keep moving. It has to keep progressing, doesn't it? So rightfully so, wait for as long as you can possibly wait for, with Habib as the real champion. And the fight that we all want to see is Habib against Justin Gaethje. Of course it is. But in the meantime, if Habib's not ready and he can't fight because of this tragedy, then Dustin Poirier takes on Justin Gaethje, doesn't he?
Yeah.
What do you think of the possibility of Poirier and Conor if the Gaethje and Khabib fight does happen?
Makes a lot of sense for Dustin, makes no sense for Conor. What's the point for it does, you know what I mean? Dustin Poirier has developed his game so much since that defeat. He's come on leaps and bounds. He's in a different weight category now. I mean, look at the level of opponents that he has beaten. Yeah, all right, he lost to Habib, right? He did. He lost well to Habib. But look at all the guys that he has beaten in the last 6 fights. Sensational. And what he's just done to Dan Hooker, he was on an unbelievable tear. Very close fight, but I thought Dustin Poirier was the better man and won it quite comfortably in the end, round on round, rather than in round action. It makes a lot of sense for Dustin. Of course it does. Anybody fighting Conor, it makes a lot of sense for them. But from Conor's point of view, he's already beaten him. He's already got those bragging rights. He can already say, well, I've already got him on my ledger. Why do I need to do that again? And if he does do it again, he's running a big risk, because Dustin Poirier is a very different animal that he fought at 145 pounds, I think.
Apart from
Masvidal's the one for Conor. Masvidal's the one for Conor. That's what he should be going after.
Apart from all the title fights this weekend, which fight are you most particularly looking forward to? Would you say it's Andrade versus Namajunas? Just
on 251 or in general on Fight Island?
Well, that was going to be another question of mine, but 251 for this question.
Mate, the fight is Usman Masvidal. That's the main bad boy that I'm excited about. I kind of like the Volkan Oezdemir fight. The kid that he's fighting from the Czech Republic used to be the Rising champion. And I'm not going to pronounce his name for you because I'm not very good with with pronouncing Czech names. But he's undefeated through 11 fights. He hasn't been beaten since 2015. And they're both like heavyweights that like knockouts. It's the last one, I think, on the prelims just before we get to the main card. So that should be a cracker. I can't see that going the distance. I've just jinxed it now, but I can't see that going the distance. So yeah, probably that one. I love Rose Namajunas. I hope she's back to where she was and puts on a great performance, which then hopefully maybe sets up a fight with Zhang. Who knows? But those three, how can you look past those 3 title fights, man? We just spoke up. They're the ones, aren't they? They're the ones. You sit there and you go, right, here we go. Nobody's falling asleep, mate. Nobody's falling asleep through them bad boys.
And what about for the rest of Fight Island? Would you say it'd be Whittaker Till? terms of which you're most looking forward to?
Originally, and I'm gutted that this has fallen off, was Roberts versus Dalby. I was a massive fan of that fight.
Yeah.
I mean, it was originally scheduled, wasn't it, for London? I was giddy. I know both those dudes. They're both top guys, really nice fellas. But I knew that they would both bring it. Once the door shut, they would bring it and they'd give you a war. So I'm gutted that fight has fallen off. I'm interested to see Alex Gustafsson at heavyweight. Where's he at, taking on Verdum? That's a good one. We've obviously got our throwback fight, haven't we? With Little Nog being back on Fight Island. That's a good one. But yeah, man. Just because Israel Adesanya is my favourite guy in the UFC right now, bar Masvidal, of course. But Israel Adesanya, just the way that he fights, the way that he lights up the microphone as well. Everything about is what I'm in fight sports for. And to see Darren Till maybe get an opportunity against him would be amazing for British mixed martial arts, I think. But don't get me wrong, he's got a tough one, hasn't he? July 25th against Robert Whittaker. It's a fucking tough fight, that man. But the one thing that you do know with both these dudes is that it won't be dull. It's not gonna be a wrestling contest. They're not going to end up on the mat. There's not going to be much of that. It's going to be point striking. It's going to be on the feet. Let's have it. And if what Jorge said about Darren Till recently is true, that he's the hardest hitter that he's ever faced in his life, you never know, man. Only takes one, doesn't it? If Darren can land, you might have a sensational moment for a British mixed martial artist on the island.
Well, you mentioned Gustafsson's fighting at heavyweight against Verdum. Do you think that's a sensible decision for him?
Yeah, man. I think he's had a go at light heavy, hasn't he? We all know who the best light heavyweight on the planet is. I'd love to see that particular light heavyweight myself, but I don't know what's going on there with pay disputes and various bits. So leave them to it. I think Gus has had his crack at light heavyweight. He's come up short in a fight that maybe a lot of people thought he won the first time round against John. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of like people doing stuff outside their comfort zone a little bit. And he's had a go. It didn't work out. And now he's taking on a guy in Verdum. Listen, it's not going to be dull, is it, against Verdum? It's going to be it's going to be cracking. If he comes up with the goods against Fabrizio, then the next thing you know, you've got another contender in the heavyweight division, because when you talk heavyweights now contending for the top shot, right? You've got Stipe and DC who are going to run it back for that trilogy. Francis Ngannou is obviously a guy that will always come in conversation just because of his power. But everybody that seems to have been on that rise, trying to get through, for example, Jorginho Rosenstruik, they come up against something and they get found out. So he comes up against Ngannou, gets found out. Ngannou the first time round came up against Stipe and got found out, didn't he? And then against Derek Lewis, those types of guys. So you're looking for where's the depth of the division? You look at bantamweight, we all could sit here and name 5-10 dudes. You know what I mean? Of going, this guy. You look at other divisions, right? He's a contender. This is my guy. You know what I mean? Heavyweight, you can't really do that. So you look at Gus. I want him to do well. I want him to beat Verdum, because then all of a sudden you go, whoa, hang on a minute. We've got another guy here. Right, okay. Let's see what happens. Because that's what you want. You want as many contenders as you possibly can in a division to make it exciting.
Well, while we're on the heavyweight subject, we know we're UFC 252, DC and Stipe, the trilogy. Who have you got winning that one?
You bastards. Wow, man. I think that is such a hard fight to call. They've both got one apiece. They've both got a stoppage each. Draw. Matt, do you know something? I'm slightly edging towards DC, but I don't know whether that's because I've fallen in love with his commentary. I don't know. Because as fighters, there's so many. The way that Stipe switched that last fight is outstanding. I mean, he was getting beat up, and the way he switched the attack and then took it away from DC, for DC not to see that and make the changes himself, it was outstanding. Really, really good. And don't get me wrong, Stipe is a guy that has got the most amount of title defenses in the heavyweight division. Yeah. It's so, mate, I can't call that fight. Again, just because I've maybe got more of a affinity with DC from speaking to him more than I've ever spoken to Stipe. I'm probably just edging towards him, but that's no way to judge a fight. That's bullshit. You should be judging it on what's in front of you. It's going to be amazing. That's all I can say. It's going to be amazing. I don't know who wins it.
Well, I believe after it, we know this is going to be DC's last fight, but I believe if Stipe wins, I think he'll retire as well. But do you think, well, everyone's got to think Ngannou's got to be next in line. Do you think he's going to be the next heavyweight champion after either DC or Stipe?
Yeah, Francis is the next one, isn't he? You know what I mean, what an unbelievable tale that is for a kid that has come out of literally serious poverty in Cameroon to the travels that he went on to come through Europe and then end up in Las Vegas and to fall short first time round. You know, people thought he was going to do it first time round. I was one of them, just because of the ferocious power that the lad's got. And he's such a nice dude. He's just a gentle guy, but you shut the door, you don't want to be anywhere near him, do you? You know what I mean? He's an absolute animal. Yeah, I think he, rightfully so, he's next in line for a shot. And I think he'll be fighting for a vacant title. I think you're right. I think both of these guys are now at Stipe and DC. I think they're both at stages of their lives. DC's got a wonderful commentary career, ready to go, Annie. Let's get cracking with that. Stipe's doing some fantastic things in his hometown in the fire service, and he's probably made for life now. He's going to be down in the Hall of Fame with the guy with the most amount of defences in the heavyweight division. So yeah, I think Francis would be next. I'm just trying to think who he'd fight. Maybe Gustafsson if he wins at the weekend. Who knows? Who knows is he going to fight for the
I wouldn't say Blades because they've already fought twice and Ngannou's beaten him. But in terms of the rankings, he makes the most sense. But they've already fought twice, so it's up in the air, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. That's what I mean about how the depth of the division. It doesn't seem to be there for me at the moment in the heavyweights.
In terms of the combat sports business, obviously you've been in it for a while, you do your media work. What sort of got you into the combat sports industry?
Well, so I started my career in music radio. So when I was a kid going to school, when I was about, well, obviously last year's of school, 15, 16, your mum and dad are asking you like what you're going to do with your life and all this. And I remember distinctly watching, I used to listen to Chris Evans' Radio 1 breakfast show. And at the time when I was a kid, Chris Evans was like the big media dude in the UK because he had a show on Friday nights called TFI Friday. And I remember my dad asking me when that was on TV, and I went, I'm going to do what this guy does. Right? And he was like, yeah, all right, whatever. But in my head, I never had any doubts that I would be able to get to some level of being a radio presenter. Because I had all the kit for like DJing in nightclubs and stuff in my house, and I was practicing radio shows and various things like that. And I felt that I had the ability to be able to do it. So I started in local radio. Well, I started DJing in nightclubs. That's how my career started, and that's how I know Bisping, because me and him were DJing in the same nightclubs around our local town, which is weird in itself now that it's come full circle. So off the back of that, I then got an opportunity at my local radio station to do a radio show there. So that was all music stuff. So I was doing all music, radio stuff, cracking jokes, having a bit of a laugh, having a bit of a gag. And I did well out of it, got to Radio 1 levels and what have you. But I remember in 2012, with the Olympics coming around, there was an opportunity to go and work on the Olympics through radio, through sabbaticals with the BBC and all this type of stuff. So I asked, like, is there any chance that I can work on the Olympics? Yeah. Here's some of the sports that you can cover. What do you know most about? And I looked at it and I went, well, I know boxing inside out. I've never covered it professionally, but I'm a fan. I go and do it all the time, like, you know. So they did. They said, right, you can go down to the XL. You can cover all the boxing for us. But as well as that, I want you to cover judo. I want you to cover table tennis, weightlifting, and all this carry on. I mean, table tennis was mad because the majority of the superstars in the table tennis land are from Asia, and pronouncing Chinese, Japanese, Thailand names and all this type of stuff was a real baptism of fire for me anyway. But obviously 2012 was a major year because Joshua wins, Nicola Adams wins, all these guys are coming through, and it was a big year for British boxing. And I remember finishing that summer 2012, and at the time I had an agent. I don't have one now, but at the time I had an agent, and it all finished 2012 Olympics and Paralympic Games, and I said, I'm not going back to music radio. I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve, all the things. I got to the levels that I wanted to get to. I won the awards that I wanted to win. I want to start again and I want to do it in sport radio now. That's what I want to do. So that's what happened, man. I mean, I came back, I went on holiday, came back, and then started a football phoning show with Ian Wright randomly. And then a few opportunities started coming up in fight sports, just the odd one here, there, and everywhere, just ticking along. All the while still just being a fan, just watching it all, just keeping my knowledge up there of how things were moving in the UFC and mixed martial arts and in boxing. And then when I went to TalkSport, even though I was originally on TalkSport doing just football and general sports shows, an opportunity came up to cover a fight between Anthony Crolla and Ricky Burns, I think it was. And they didn't have a fight sports presenter in the building. This is literally what happened. And because of the success of my podcast, Fight Disciples, which was already in fruition then, I think it had only been going 2 years, already won a few awards and what have you. One of the producers who listened to Fight Disciples said, well, let's just use Adam for this one and we'll see who we can get for the next couple of fights. So I was given that fight to host. I hosted the radio show, the live event and what have you. Rest is history, man, because I knocked it out the fucking park and away we go, you know. So yeah, then I became TalkSport's boxing guy really, and then managed to persuade bosses at TalkSport to start taking on some UFC stuff, and we were lucky enough to cover the Masvidal and Askren fight last year, which was fucking mad. Imagine commentating on that. That was unreal. But then, yeah, off the back of doing all the things for TalkSport and building up all the boxing to a certain level, we covered the Wilder Fury first fight in Los Angeles. So we were out in Los Angeles, and obviously that was being broadcast on BT Sport. And again, just having conversations with people, being open and honest about your own ambitions and what you want to achieve. And I was lucky enough to be at a dinner one night out in LA with the guys from BT Sport, and it went from there. I said, listen, man, I'd love to cover all your UFC. You guys need to be doing more UFC. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. And the next thing you know, I'm getting a phone call so that happened, I think, into December, the Wilder Fury fight.
Yeah.
The following March, I got a phone call like a week before UFC London, said, right, starting a new TV show. Dan Hardy's going to be doing X, Y, and Z, all this analytics. We need someone to host it for him. And I went, sweet as, let's go, man. Let's do it. And then Masvidal rocks up and knocks out Darren Till, and away we go, you know. That's it. So, yeah, that's it. And Open Mat was born. Open Mat was born March of last year. And it's been a slow process up until the point of maybe Abu Dhabi 242. And then we went out to Abu Dhabi 242 where Habib and Poirier were fighting, and then everything just blew up then. Everything just went crazy. Just the way that we were interviewing people, the way that we were covering the sport, and obviously then we got managed to get Nick in the show as well, which was great. And it just went wild. So now apart from when COVID's in our life, you know, we're at all the major, what you would class as the American pay-per-view events. We're at them, and we're doing it, and we're there covering the sport. So yeah, that's my journey into it, mate. But I've always been a fan. Similar to the majority of people that get into it. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of lose track of when they become a journalist or whatever, kind of lose track of as to why they became a journalist or what was the reason for doing it. You're a fan.
Yeah.
All you are, the way that I view my job is all I am is the gateway to the fan. I'm the luckiest fan in the world. So I get to sit there with Conor, and all my job is now, people aren't tuning in for me. They couldn't give a shit about me. They're tuning in for Conor. What's Conor saying? Where's Conor's head at? How's he preparing for this fight? Where's he at, right? So my job is to just open the door now for the rest of the world to come and see Conor. That's it. How good's that job? That's an amazing job, isn't it? Just sit there going, come on, gang. I'll take you to Conor, or I'll take you to Masvidal, or whatever it may be. That's it. That's the whole job. And I mean, it's. Listen, I'm blessed that I'm able to do it, because once upon a time, and even now, I'm still sat at home watching fights. I'm still watching fucking random fights. Like, why am I watching this? I'm not covering this. I'm watching it because I'm a fan of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm genuinely into what's happening in front of my eyes.
Well, you've spoken to some of the biggest names in the UFC: Conor, Khabib, Poirier, Masvidal. Out of all the people you've actually spoke to, who's been your favourite person that you've met?
Wow. Who's the favourite? Do you know, it's such a hard question to answer, mate, and I'm probably going to cop out of the answer. The reason why I love covering fight sports more than any other sport, and I've been lucky enough to interview footballers and various things like that, and this is no disrespect to them. They come from a world where they have the backsides wiped, footballers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're living in these bubbles where they're protected by their in-house media teams and all this type of stuff. Don't get me wrong, UFC have media teams, as do many fight promoters and stuff like that. But if you actually look at the journey of a fighter compared to a journey of a footballer, footballers have signed to football clubs at 8 years of age, 9 years of age. They've lived in these crazy bubbles where you want some new trainers, football boots, kit. Don't worry about it, man. We've got that sorted for you. Fighters ain't got that. Fighters are coming from a lot of, and this is, again, I'm stereotyping a little bit, but let's say 80 to 90% are coming from tough backgrounds. They're turning to fight sports for one of two reasons, whether it's to get themselves out of a bad situation, or to bad situation, I mean like fighting on the street or whatever it may be. And then the other situation of, from a financial point of view, we've got nothing, so I can fight, so I'll go and fight and try and put money on the table. A lot of people are coming from those type of backgrounds, so therefore they've got an understanding of the real world. They know what the real world's about. So therefore, when you speak to a person like that, you've already got a base. Now, it doesn't matter if that's Conor McGregor right now. Conor McGregor is the richest mixed martial artist on the planet. That's not in doubt. He has got more. He shits money, mate. He's got so much of it, right? And he's got these brilliant businesses now with his whiskey and all these types of things. He's done extremely well for himself. But 6-7 years ago, this is a guy that was on welfare. That doesn't leave you. Yeah, okay, he's living his life on his yachts and in his car and all this type of stuff. Don't get me wrong, that's great. It's fantastic. But he understands the real world. That's why he's doing what he's doing with the PPE for the people in Ireland, because he understands it. He's lived it. He's been through it. He's gone through it. So when you have a conversation with that, you can come into the room all you want with him, as much bravado as you wish. But when you sit down and you start to have a real conversation, you look into the eyes of another human being, you can see how real they are. And Conor's got that. But people might have a different opinion of him because you've had different types of conversations with him. But when I sit down with him and I look at him and I go, you're Conor McGregor from Ireland. That's it. And away we go. Let's have that conversation. So to say, who's your favourite? I've had some memorable conversations. Israel Adesanya took my breath away a little bit because I didn't get a question in. He took control of the whole conversation. He just went, right, this is what we're talking about today. Boom, 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 boom. And off he went. And he was brilliant to be in the presence of someone that takes control of a conversation like that. Masvidal, every time I'm around Masvidal, he's absolute gold. Conor, as you know, is just a different level. But then you can have a conversation with someone like Amanda Nunes, for example, right? And there is a language barrier because my Portuguese is shit. Her English is brilliant, but I don't know what her Northern English is like. You know what I mean? So to understand me is quite a difficult task. But because of how good she is as a mixed martial artist and how good she wants to be as a personality as well, conversations like that are memorable. You walk away from it going, I've just spoken to the best fucking female mixed martial artist on the planet, man. And she's cool as fuck and she's funny. You know what I mean? Things like that you come away from. I can see the poster on the back of your wall there, mate. Every time you speak to Bisping, Bisping's just gold. Bisping's the guy, isn't he? He knows what is needed to be said. There isn't. Honestly, now, I have not come away from a conversation with a fighter and thought that was shit, and I didn't get anything out of it. Every single one of them, the quiet ones, the loud ones, the funny ones, the deep thinkers, they're all in this game. That's why we're here, because that's what fascinates us. They've all got that similar thing where they're all mad as a box of frogs, where they want to fight another human being. You know what I mean? That's fascinating. That's a fascinating thing to be talking to somebody about.
I'm going to backtrack a bit, go back to Masvidal and Usman. When the news broke out over the weekend where it was rumoured about Masvidal fighting, and obviously it was only a couple of weeks ago where Masvidal was saying, if I don't get what I should be paid, I'm going to leave. Did you think through the money thing was going to be something that was going to stop us to seeing this fight?
Yeah. Living in a weird time though, aren't we? You know what I mean? There's always going to, with the business model that the UFC have, there's always going to be someone that puts their hand up. I mean, we saw it with Gilbert Burns, didn't we? Yeah. There was an opportunity there. He put his hand up. He fought Damien Maia behind closed doors, knocked him out. Fights Tyron Woodley off the back of a fight that fell through between Leon Edwards and Tyron Woodley. Takes it, dominates him, puts himself into the firing line. Now, he was third choice, Gilbert Burns, for the fight with Usman, because Leon Edwards was offered it and he said, I can't get ready in time. So, but because of the things that he'd done, he put himself into that situation. As long as that keeps happening, then the argument for on fighter pay is always going to remain, because there'll always be somebody that puts their hand up. And unless you can come and justify Conor McGregor numbers, then you ain't going to get Conor McGregor money. That just ain't happening. And no disrespect to John Jones, because I know he's going through this. John Jones, for a period of time, I mean, for a period of time, he was the best mixed martial artist on the planet. Recent performances doesn't live up to early John Jones. I'll give everybody that. But he was the best. Does fighting Dominic Reyes, does fighting those types, and again, that's no disrespect to Dom Reyes, who was brilliant against him, really, really good. But are those the types of names that are going to generate him major pay-per-view numbers, and are they going to generate him major dollar, the Deontay Wilder money, as Dana White put it? No, it's not. There's only one guy right now that can do that. There's only one guy, and that's the Red Panty Party, mate. So therefore, I think let's see what happens at the weekend. If Masvidal wins at the weekend, right? Let's see what he says. If he says Conor McGregor, you know what's happening. You know what's happening, because he knows that's where the dough is. He knows that's where the money is.
When it comes to the UFC, obviously they've been around since the early 90s, and boxing professionally a bit before that time. Do you think, in your personal opinion, that the UFC can ever surpass boxing?
Randomly, I've just had this conversation about where the fans are going right now. I mean, if you look at the numbers that they're generating on the cards that are being churned out by Top Rank over in the States at the moment, they're poor, and that is because the matchups are poor. People were excited. People are thirsty. People are absolutely gagging for it, aren't they? So they tune on in, and then they get to see one-sided beatdowns. They get to see dull fights. Those numbers dwindle. They come down. They come down. They come down. They come down. So the level of matchup has not been there right now from the world of boxing. And then people will always make that comparison to the world of UFC, because it's a fight sport. Of course, they're very different business models. There's a lot more people involved in the world of boxing that are getting paid, sanctioning bodies, promoters, TV channels, all this type of stuff. UFC is a one-stop shop. So they can do what the bloody hell they want, and they can make whatever they want. We've been lucky. As soon as we came out of lockdown, the UFC have hit the ground running, and they've given us the most competitive fights out there, haven't they? I mean, look what we're getting this weekend. Outrageous. But if you strip it all back to the fan that doesn't, or that isn't interested in the politics of this bullshit, nobody's really interested in politics, and I don't care about that. Give me the entertainment. Give me the best fights. Where's the best fights at? Boxing struggled, and boxing will continue to struggle because there's too many people involved at this moment, right? Hopefully, what I'm hoping is that this lockdown will give boxing a bit of a kickstart to say, right, let's take our egos out of these conversations of A side, B side. Let's just cut this shit. Fans have proven what they want, because during the lockdown, we didn't deliver the big matchups that they expected. The UFC did. The UFC are still doing the numbers, and their numbers are growing. Our numbers are going the other way. Right? So the main thing is the matchups. Give us the matchups. Now, there's a rumor that Vasyl Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez will fight in September behind closed doors or with limited amounts of fans to unify the lightweight division. Now, that's massive. It's a massive, massive, massive fight, and kudos to both men for taking it without fans being in the arena in the normal world. I guarantee that if they make that fight goes ahead, the numbers will be mad. There'll be absolutely crazy numbers for it, of which then should inspire every other fucker to go, oh shit, yeah, maybe we need to be making the best fights. Well, it's obvious that you need to be making the best fights. You need to stop all this A side, B side nonsense And you just need to put your guy in with that guy, irrelevant of where they're at in their career, protecting undefeated records and all this type of stuff. Because that's another thing that the UFC don't do. If you've got an undefeated record in the UFC, you're not fighting the right guys, or you Khabib. That's it. You know what I mean? You're not fighting the right guys, or you're as unbelievable as Khabib. That's it.
I'm thankful that Mason's got you on, really, because as part of my investigation at uni in my final year, I've sort of wanted to get an intake as to how much the UFC as an organisation has grown across Europe. And one of my features was on the journalist perspective. And obviously you, one of the combat sport kings of journalism,
bit steep.
has covered the industry for a while. In your personal opinion, how much has the UFC as an organisation grown since 1993 onwards across Europe and across Great Britain?
The perspective, first of all, has changed, right? Because when it first started, if you remember, people would dip into it. I mean, here in the UK, what was it on? Satanta and various random channels like that. So you dip into it and you would see this unregulated, just street brawls. That's what you saw. And first impressions last with a lot of people. So you would watch that where someone's fighting around for 25 minutes and all sorts is going on. The only thing they're not allowed to do is kick them in the balls and gouge their eyes. Everything else is sweet, man. Let's get on with it. And I'm thinking, this is mad. It's absolute madness. Even the first couple of times that I watched it, I was like, this is absolute lunacy. But then the Fertittas and Dana get involved, and they spend a long time regulating this thing. Let's not forget, it's only in the last, 4 or 5 years that it's been allowed in New York, and states like that, in and around America. They've spent a lot of time on safety aspects of the sport, on drug testing, which is obviously still a problem because it's still a young sport. But back in the day, man, geez, people were coming jacked off the tits. You know what I mean? They were coming walking in. Now it's not the case. There's proper USADA legislation involved. You've got real rules and regulations. You've got athletes. You ain't got dudes just who are good at fighting no more, even though they are. Athletes. It's a professional career. It's proper. And we're still in its infancy. We're still, like you just said, only since the 1990s has this been an organisation. So perception most certainly has changed. And the catalyst of that in Europe has become when you have more European champions being able to say, hey, man, you know what I mean? I'm the guy. Now, I can only speak from a UK point of view. When Bisping becomes champion, right? Because that's a key moment in British mixed martial arts, because what it does then is that it opens up the door to everybody else who then believe that it's possible to happen. The first time is always the most difficult time. When who's going to be the first guy? And we've had opportunities. I mean, my guy that I work with, Dan Hardy, had an opportunity against George St. Pierre, one of the greatest of all time, came up short, sadly. Bisping's been the kneeling man for such a long period of his career. Where are we at? Where's our guy at? We've got to have a guy, haven't we, that we champion. Or can they compete with the Americans? Can they compete with the Brazilians? Can they compete with the Dagestanis? Can they do that? No, they can't. They keep falling short. When Bisping, and the way he's done it as well, has really helped the narrative here, because Bisping taking a fight on short notice and chinning his adversary in Luke Rockhold, having been choked out first time round in Australia, if you remember. The way that he did that, and Bisping being such a great talker, man. He'll tell that story till the fucking cows come home, which is great. For us, it's great. Mate, keep telling the story. Because then what happens is you then have boxing fans nipping over, right, and going, oh, what's this? Or football fans nipping in, and just, they don't have to be hardcore. But what you want is the football fan to come and watch. That's what you want to do, which then grows the sport, which then enables mainstream media, rather than just me and your MMA junkie guys and all like the hardcore boys like yourselves. Those guys, when you're getting column inches in mainstream newspapers, when you're turning up on BBC and TalkSport's websites, those types of things then start to grow the narrative of the sport, change the perspective of the sport and the way that people can start to speak about the sport. Then you've got this Irish fella. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's called Conor McGregor, right? he's quite outspoken, is the lad, right? And he's pretty decent. You know what I mean? He's set a few records out there, right? So when he does what he does and takes over the gaff, obviously British and Irish media are going, shit, man, our guy. This is what English people do anyway, right? Andy Murray's brilliant at tennis. He's one of us. He's one of us, right? He's Scottish, but he's one of us. He's one of us. Right? Exactly. Rory McIlroy smacking the living daylights out of it on the golf course. Northern Irish. No, he's English, mate. He's English. He's one of our guys. Yeah, he plays for Europe in the Ryder Cup. He's one of our lads. Conor McGregor's Irish, doing his thing. He's one of us, right? So that's what you do. You jump all over that and you champion that because it feels a little bit more closer to home, and that then enables mainstream media to cover it more. It enables more people to do their research and understand the sport. You know, from those first early perceptions of fucking hell, it's human cockfighting. They're just leathering the living daylights out of each other. It's brutal. It's carnage. Nobody has died from the UFC from a direct fight in the UFC. All right, so that's where we're at. So the safety aspect of it, the drug testing aspect of it, the quality of the athletes over a 27-year period have gone through the roof, and it's only getting better. It's only getting better, and the attitude of the organisation to keep delivering the best against the best is sending this now off to a new plane, of which you're seeing during this pandemic. You know, Fight Island this weekend and the week after for the second week of Fight Island is living proof that these dudes are serious of becoming the number one sporting organisation in the world.
Well, while we was on the topic of boxing before, we know there's a huge fight that every UK fan wants to see, Fury AJ. If that fight is to ever take place, who would you have winning that?
You're just trying to do me today, you lads, aren't you?
It's got to be Fury. Come on.
Yes, but it ain't as easy as every person says it is, mate. You know what I mean? Of course, Fury's 6'9". He's light on his feet, and he's proven that he can box two ways now. He can box your ears off on the back foot, and he can take it to you if he needs to take it to you, and he can stop you. And the performance against Deontay Wilder the second time round was just unreal. Absolutely unreal. AJ, though, I've got to give him credit because he was embarrassed in front of the world. Against Andy Ruiz, he was embarrassed in front of the world. He went away, dusted himself off, redesigned his way of fighting in order to get the job done. Now, okay, he wasn't the most entertaining of fights, the second one, but that wasn't... Listen, just win. That's all you got to do, just win. Get your belts back, man. And he did the business that in that second fight. I don't think it's as cut and dry as everybody going, yeah, Tyson Fury just smashes him to bits. I don't think he does. I think Tyson Fury wins, but he might have to get up. I think it's a good fight, man.
We all talk about 2021 is going to be the year of AJ versus Fury, but bear this in mind, obviously you've still got Wilder versus Fury 3 potentially. Joshua's got to get through Pulev, but now obviously recently you've got Dylan White come into the picture and say, you know, I want the shot with Fury before AJ does because I'm the mandatory challenger. I deserve it more than AJ. That's from his sort of perspective as well. Going into 2021, which sort of upcoming boxing fights are you looking forward to? Because obviously as well, coming up in a couple of months' time, you've got Joyce versus Dubois and then obviously Fury Wilder and all that. So which fight are you most looking forward to coming up?
Yeah, the big one for every fight fan is always when you get an opportunity to crown an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And as you've just rightfully said, there's so many stumbling blocks that are sadly in the way of that fight at the moment. You've got a rematch. You've got three mandatories because Pulev's a mandatory for the IBF, isn't he? You've still got Usyk, who's a mandatory for the WBO. You've got Dillian White, who's the mandatory for the WBC. This is what I mean about UFC and boxing, right? All this politics bollocks. Fans aren't interested, man. I just want to see the best against the best. But don't get me wrong. Dillian White also has earned his shot at the WBC side of this belt because he's been waiting for such a long period of time, even though he was offered the AJ fight last year, which he declined. So the fight that I'm most looking forward to, without any shadow of a doubt, would be Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua for the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Because, and the reason for it is because I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to stuff like this. I want to see in my lifetime an undisputed heavyweight champion. The last one was 1999, Lennox Lewis. It wasn't at the time, 4 belts weren't recognised as undisputed. It was just the 3. So we've never had a 4-belt undisputed heavyweight champion. Do I think we're going to get one sometime soon? No, because when Fury and AJ do meet, and I think they will meet because there's too much dough involved, but some of those belts might not be there because somebody's had to vacate something in order to keep this person happy or this person happy and all this type of carry on. So we're still going to be having that conversation when Fury and AJ fight. Let's say Fury wins. Well, hang on a minute. Usyk's the WBO champion. He's the man. You've got to go and fight him now. Well, hang on a minute. I thought we quashed all that. I thought we found out who the number one was when these two guys fought. So yeah, heavyweights always take my imagination because it's just the thing that got me involved in fight sports. Watching Mike Tyson and Frank Bruno back in 1989. That's where it all started for me. So when you get an opportunity to cover a big heavyweight fight, two British lads as well, big historic moment where we've got all the belts here. Let's rock and roll. Let's get it on. Let's do it. That's the fight. You've just mentioned Joyce and Dubois there. I'm not as optimistic as everybody else. October 24th at the O2 Arena. I know they're selling tickets for it right now. I think we're going to have some crazy second wave with the way that everybody's behaving, which is a shame because, again, what a fight, man. From a domestic point of view, what a fight that is. And I don't think it can go on really behind closed doors from a financial point of view, which would be a shame.
Well, I think we've covered quite a bit today. Have you got anything else to add, James?
Well, I've got a few more, but I'll try and keep it short.
Yeah, we'll get.
Obviously, I've written down so many questions for you. I just want to get out of the way.
Get them off your chest. Go on, get them all out of the way.
In terms of the sort of boxing in the UFC aspect, what was the greatest moment / fight you've ever witnessed in both UFC and boxing, which made you think, wow, I want to cover this sport?
What, before I started covering it, or one that I've been at, or what?
Yeah, one before you started covering.
Wow. Well, boxing, when I talk fight sports, I started with boxing. So I remember in 1989, Bruno fighting Tyson. We didn't have Sky at my house. We had to go to my uncle's house. I was about 8-9 years of age. My dad, for some reason, was looking after us. My mum must have been out, and he picked us all up, went to my uncle's house, chucked us all in bed. I came down in the middle of the night, and these two were watching Frank Bruno and Mike Tyson, and I was captivated by it. Off the back of that, then you start watching Rocky films, don't you? And you go,
yeah,
it's all right, this. I kind of like the narrative of the fight sports. It's quite amazing. So yeah, growing up as a kid in the 90s, Nazim Ahmed, Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank, they're your guys. And then I was lucky enough to be in and around the Manchester scene when Ricky Hatton's coming through and he's doing his thing. And I suppose being, as a fan, the best night that I've ever had is when he beat Kostya Tszyu. And again, as a fan, going over to America, I didn't get a ticket for the Mayweather fight, sadly, but I did for Pacquiao. That environment was where I was at from a boxing point of view. The things that inspired me, well, not inspired me to cover it, because it's weird, right? Covering fight sports. When I was a kid and just being a fan of it, and sport in general, because when something comes easy to you, I never associated it with work. Work's supposed to be hard. When I grew up as a kid, I seen my dad working in a factory and my mum grafting away and doing what they're doing. You're not supposed to like work.
No.
So you got my relationship with work is, well, they just go there to get dough, to put food on the table, and we can go on holiday every now and again. You know what I mean? And we can keep a roof over our heads. You're not supposed to enjoy it. So when I started my career, even though I enjoyed doing music radio, it was still work for me because I didn't have a real love for Britney Spears, you know what I mean? Or pop star, you know what I mean? I didn't have a real love for that. I had to research it. I had to actually then go to work. Whereas fight sports has just been life. If I'm at home at the weekend, sport's on, and always if a fight's on over a football match, I choose the fight. I'm always choosing the fight, right? So that's always been part of my life. So therefore, covering it felt like I was cheating. Well, hang on a minute. You talk about the thing that you love to talk about anyway when you're in the pub with your mates and people pay you for it. Yeah, that's what I do for a living. That's not living. That's not a job. What you're doing, man, that's not real. That doesn't feel real to me. So therefore, the penny dropped, like I said to you before. The penny dropped with me in 2012 of being able to cover fight sports when I thought, oh, it'd be cool to do the Olympics. And then I didn't even chase the boxing thing. I just wanted to be involved in the Olympics because I knew it was big. And then the opportunity came where they went, we've got boxing, nobody's covering boxing, do you want to cover it? I went, oh yeah, obviously I know. Fucking hell, yeah. I'll cover boxing. That's like the golden goose for me. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll go and cover that. And then once you do it and you think, fucking hell, I'm all right at this, and I really enjoyed that, fancy doing that. I fancy doing that for the rest of my life. That'd be quite cool. So that's the moment that went bang. The UFC best moments have all been with Bisping. Always. Just growing up as a kid, DJing in the same nightclubs, I was aware of what he was doing. He goes into tough. You're watching him on TV. It's mad. He's from my town, him. That's mad.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, his rise. I remember watching UFC 100 and being absolutely heartbroken because that was the night. I think did Brock fight Mia that night? I think he did, didn't he?
Yeah,
and then obviously it was Hendo against Bisping, and Bisping got absolutely wiped out, didn't he? And I just remember thinking, oh, it's over. And then there were so many kneeling moments for him, so many kneeling moments as we're going through it. So it's always been a Bisping thing. And even though I was covering it, Bisping Rockhold's just the best moment ever, isn't it? It's just the best. For a British fight fan, it's just the best.
And just one final one for me. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on. I'm such a big fan. I'm training to be a journalist, and I'm hoping to succeed in that sort of sports journalism aspect. What would your advice be to those wanting to succeed in the sports media industry?
Well, I think now you're in a very different situation than, because I've been at this now for 20 years nearly, right? So you're in a different situation now. You've got so many platforms where you can do your thing. So if you take, depending on what you want to do, whether it's writing, video, podcasting, whatever it may be, it's there for you now. You don't have to be writing off to your local radio stations like I used to have to do to get your voice heard. Or you don't have to, start as a runner at a TV company, work your way up to then end up on Sky Sports. Even though that's cool, and don't get me wrong, that's still a path, it's still there. You've got the opportunity now to grow your own following, whether it be from YouTube, podcasting, setting up your own website for blogging or whatever it may be. So whatever it is that you want to do, start now. Build your own following now, because that's key now. Audience is key. Having a captive audience is key. If you can go and talk to a television channel and say, listen, man, this is what I've got on my podcast, this is what I've got on my YouTube, and this is what I'm saying, here's some of my stuff, you've got stuff to show people, then who knows, mainstream media might come along. But I genuinely believe that we're mainstream media and fan-driven media, if that's what we want to call it, they're much of a muchness now. They are much of a muchness. Don't get me wrong, there's still kudos and that nice little blue tick next to everybody that's doing their own mainstream nonsense, but I like to listen to real opinions. So if you've got something real to say, set your thing up and say it and cover it in the way that you want to cover it before somebody else comes along and tries and shapes you in some other way. What I will say is this, right? For anybody that's watching this and yourself, right? Even though I'd done all the things that I'd done in music radio, won whatever national awards and been successful, the thing that has most certainly been the catalyst in the world of fight sports for me, that has got me doing BT Sport or Talk Sport and all this type of stuff, was setting up my own podcast. That's it. Now, could I have been as successful without all the other stuff and just the podcast? Maybe not, because all the other stuff did teach me things, and obviously I've learned loads of different things from being in mainstream media over a long period of time, which probably made that podcast successful. But it is the podcast, Fight Disciples podcast, no doubt, that has made people go, stand up, take attention and go, we'll use this guy. We'll put this guy on here. You know what I mean? We'll give him an opportunity with BT Sport. We'll give him an opportunity with Talk Sport. We'll give him an opportunity with BBC or whatever. It was my own thing that was the catalyst of it. And that would be the advice, man. You know what I mean? Too many people put emphasis on getting the degree and the path being so regimented. The path's not regimented anymore. The path's there for you now. Doesn't matter how old you are. If you've got something to say and you're good at talking and you've got something that people want to see, get it out there.
Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on, Adam. And it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you and to get there. Speak to someone like yourself that's been in the industry for a while now. So cheers again for joining us.
No, man, listen, when it's been nice speaking to you guys. You've got a nice bit of chemistry between you. You got some good chat about it. You obviously know about MMA. Is it just an MMA thing that you guys do, or are you doing general sports?
We do cover all sports, that anything topical in the sports industry that we're going to do.
Yeah, man. Keep it going. Keep working
Perfect,
hard, and you'll get to wherever you want to get to. Take care, boys.
Take care, mate. Thank you so much for your time, mate.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.